Hello, welcome to the presentation on self-advocacy and learning how to say no. My name is Craig Bideman. I am the Health Education and Wellness Promotion Specialist for University Health Services at UMass Boston. My job is to make sure that y'all take care of yourselves and take care of your minds and bodies and souls and spirits and all those other things that make you you. And one of the most important things is learning how to advocate for yourself. So we're going to talk about that a little bit in this presentation. A little bit about me. I'm a constant doer of things. I balance a lot of projects. I tend to be a people pleaser, and I'm very overcommitted in a lot of parts of my life, which means that learning how to advocate for myself has become pretty much a lifelong practice for myself. And it's also been one of those things that I'm okay at, but can always be doing better at. So I'm trying my hardest every day to also do this right along with you. So we're in kind of the same boat. If you're one of those people that have a hard time saying no to friends or to projects or to professors, faculty members, family members, supervisors, things like that. So I completely understand that some of us might be in the same boat, and it's kind of a work in progress. And that's something that is very understandable. So I just want to dig into that a little bit and get things rolling. Self-advocacy is the action of representing oneself or one's views or interests. What this means is kind of recognizing what you bring to the table and recognizing the things that make you you, and being able to voice those things and being able to recognize when you are able to present yourself in a specific manner, or when you cannot show up in some ways. Maybe that's because maybe your mental health is acting up, maybe your brain isn't just cooperating, maybe you're not feeling super well. Sometimes we just can't show up, and I totally get that. I've had a lot of moments in my life where I've had to basically just stop what I was doing, take a quick break, start all over, or just abandon it altogether, because a lot of times my brain and my body don't like to be in sync. So I totally get how it can be hard to be completely on all the time. And so self-advocacy is recognizing when you might need to ask for help, or when you might need to represent who you are to someone who may not understand what you're going through, or someone who might, and you're just hoping that they understand. This is not easy. It's not an easy thing to do, to advocate for yourself. It's not an easy thing to make things about yourself sometimes. And I recognize that for some folks this might be a little bit easier. Some folks it's definitely super hard to just be like, I need help, or I can't do this on my own. Because for some folks this is a really big obstacle to overcome. And so I recognize that it's also important to acknowledge that when we have to say no, it can feel like we're letting other people down. So learning how to say no is important, especially when you have many commitments, plans, homework, and obligations. Life is busy. Life's all about balance. Life is about finding that balance and seeking out how we're actually able to get everything done and actually live a sustainable, fulfilling life. I know that I've had a hard time, especially during quarantine, to feel like I'm living a fulfilled life, and I haven't had a lot of opportunities to say no to things, because when something's come up, especially during this kind of setup, it's important to try to seek out folks who are really in the same boat as you, which is like all of us. So making sure that you're able to connect with other people while also getting everything done is an important balance to strike. I know that I've had my big extrovert moments being kind of squashed, and I've kind of taken for granted some of the things that I used to be able to do. And so I'm hoping that in the coming months we'll be able to be a little bit more active with our friends and with our communities. So this is also not an easy thing to do, being able to say no to folks, or being able to say no to projects, or really anything in general. because there's a lot of fear of letting people down. And I get that. I spent a lot of high school and college just overcommitting myself so that I felt like I was involved. So I felt like I had friends. So I was constantly being um, in the center of the conversation or in the center of the happenings. And ultimately, it left me a little burnt out, and it left me really struggling to actually take care of the things that I needed to balance in the rest of my life. So it took me being able to finally advocate for myself and be, especially in graduate school, and be like, I can only handle so much. I can only handle so many things in my life before I'm completely drowning um, in overcommitment and projects. So I had to learn that project, or I had to learn that process real hard way, especially when I found that I was like letting friends down, when I was kind of not doing well in relationships, when I wasn't doing well in school. I had to learn how to efficiently and effectively advocate for taking myself out of certain situations, explicitly um, things where a lot of my time was being taken up. So didn't, I like left a band that I was in. I ended a relationship that wasn't healthy. I started to do things that actually felt a little bit healthier for me and for my mental health and for my just overall direction in life. So self-advocacy is also looking at how can I advocate for myself, my needs, and my abilities. This is one of those things where um, it's going to take a lot of practice to um, learn how to do those things, because this doesn't happen overnight. Recognizing your strengths, your weaknesses, it's like a lifelong thing. It's like a developmental thing. Um, we have a hard time sometimes owning up to our mistakes, owning up to our fears and our anxieties. And that takes a lot of practice too, to make sure that you're actually able to confidently and competently um, put those things at the forefront of your mind so that you're actually advocating for your needs. There's lots of resources on campus to do those things, to help you do those things. I'll get to those a little bit later, but there's also just a lot of resources in our daily lives that we can put a lot of these practices in place, like talking to our friends, talking to our family members, talking to supervisors, people we're doing group projects with, just letting folks know what you think you can and cannot handle, and then kind of moving forward with those things. So how can you convey these needs to others? A lot of times it just means speaking up. A lot of the times it means just having hard conversations when maybe you don't want to. I recognize that you might not want to have some of these conversations. It's not super easy to be like, yeah, I have a thing that I need to make up for, and I need your help to do this thing for me because I'm struggling and I don't know how to do the things I need to do so I can be successful. I recognize that. It's hard to do because at the end of the day, you got to know you. So this takes a lot of introspection. It takes a lot of trial and error. It takes a lot of finding communities that can support you, finding friends and finding family members and finding just people in your um, immediate communities that can help you be a better you and not make you feel bad for it. Because I think that that's one of the biggest fears that folks tend to have when it comes to speaking up about what our needs are. It's that fear of potentially um, ostracizing yourself or letting someone down to the point where they don't want to be around you anymore, or they don't trust you, or they don't feel like you are being beneficial to them anymore just because you needed some time for yourself, which is honestly a real thing that happens. It's selfish and it's dumb, but it's an actual thing that happens. I've lost people in my life just because they felt like I wasn't giving them enough attention, which in reality maybe is true, but I needed to focus on other things for myself. And I'm sure that some of you might have some of those similar experiences in your life. So it's not atypical to feel like you might lose friends if you're not constantly um, being available or putting yourself out there, or just saying yes to every opportunity that comes up. You got to know what you can handle. You got to know what you're available to do. You can't just do everything for everyone. Now, saying no is imperative when you feel you are overworked, overloaded, and stressed. But how can you tell when those things are happening? This is normally where I would ask you this thing, but ultimately I just want to think about how are you able to tell when you're overworked, overloaded, or stressed? Think about that for a second, because this is a hard thing to recognize sometimes because it might catch up to us. In the moment, we might feel like we're doing fine. We're taking on what's coming our way, and we're doing it in a way that doesn't feel overwhelming. We don't feel like anything has crept up on us just yet. But when we least expect it, you never know. It might come out of left field, and then all of a sudden, you're feeling just completely stressed by all the things that you felt like you could have avoided if you had recognized that these things were going to pile up eventually. I'm guilty of this. I have many people in my life who are guilty of this. It's definitely one of those things that you just got to recognize and pay attention to what you're going through. Again, you got to know you. It's one of those things in life where if you're unable to actively acknowledge when things are happening in your life and happening to you, you're likely going to get stuck in a cycle of unhealthy behaviors because you're trying to please everyone. So just make sure that you are taking care of your needs first. Now, we're going to go through a couple thinking exercises where I'm going to let there just be a little bit of silent space, just for you to think about a couple of things. And right now, I want you to think about a time where you were unable to focus on maybe an assignment, focus on a project, a conversation. Think about a time when you were unable to focus on something. Now, what did you do in that moment? What did you do? What were you feeling? What were you going through? Just think about some of those things. Now, what are you able to do? What can you do in some of those moments when perhaps you're needing some support so that you can focus, so that you can take care of what you're needing to take care of? What are some of those things that you feel like you're able to do so that you are able to actually focus and take care of your needs in those moments? Think about that for a second. One of the things you can do is ask for accommodations, especially during a college experience. There's going to be times where you need some support. And there are a number of resources on campus that can help you out. There's the Ross Center, which helps out for student accommodations, as well as the Academic Advising Center, and anyone in the Dean of Students office. All three of those spaces can help you out with accommodations. Accommodations like having a note taker. I had a note taker during college because I had a really hard time focusing on taking notes and studying. So I had someone who could help me out because my ADHD would make me struggle a lot in class. And so basically someone gets paid to take notes for you. It's a nice little double benefit for you and the person taking notes. They get money, you get notes. Hooray! Now, alternate testing options. This can be really beneficial because if you are someone who struggles with taking a test, have test anxiety around a bunch of people, you can have a graduate student or another faculty member just set up a space for you to take the test on your own, or have a different day to take it, things like that. There are some professors who are not that chill and may not allow for this opportunity for folks, but that's another thing that you can vouch for in the Dean of Students office, and often they're able to help folks out. I know that in college, one of the times I had a health scare with my dad, I ended up reaching out to my faculty member who was in who was one of my professors, and we had a midterm coming up, and I told them, after having told them my dad's health um, situation at the beginning of the semester, they were like, they were very understanding when I followed up and let them know that my dad had a health scare. So I went home and they were able to set up a test for me the following week, which was really nice and really helpful. There are also attendance policy accommodations that you can get made for you and so that you can actually be successful if you have a hard time getting to class, especially if you have a disability. There are different ways, especially now that we're in a digital realm, that you can have attendance policies changed for yourself. Right now it might be a little bit different, but for the future, when you're back in campus or back on campus, or we are on campus, there are lots of ways to get alternate attendance policies made for yourself. Now I want you to think about a time when you felt in over your head, when you were just overwhelmed. Too much was going on. You felt really stressed. Think about a time when you felt in over your head. Maybe family was being a bit overbearing. Maybe your friends were being overbearing. Maybe a spouse. Maybe you just had no balance in your life. Maybe you had a whole bunch of things going on and you just felt like everything was falling down. Think about that time. Now, what did you do in those moments? Think about that. What did you do? What was leading to the stress? Now, what can you do in that moment? What is if from what we've been talking about with self-advocacy, what is something you can do to kind of help in some of those moments where it's potentially turning down a chance to go out one night because it means you can study for an extra night? What if it is not doing every single assignment that you have because you need some sort of time to yourself to actually like decompress and calm down a little bit? This can also mean that we're not necessarily always having to be on with our schoolwork. I know that's a hard thing to stress as someone who's an educator, but sometimes there is a lot going on and you do need to decompress and you do need to have some fun. So maybe it is just putting something aside for a moment, going and playing miniature golf like I do and chilling out. That's fine. If that's what you need, if that's what you need to succeed in a certain moment, go do that. Go to a concert, go watch a movie, binge some Netflix. Just do something that helps you lose that feeling of being overwhelmed for that moment and then come back to it eventually. And then maybe in those moments, you'll be able to actually do some really good work for yourself. At the end of the day, I really don't want you taking on more than you can handle. This is easier said than done. Trust me, I get that. It's way easier said than done. And I am guilty of this. I am one of those people that has a very hard time just committing myself to a very small role in life because I want to be doing a lot of things. I want to have my hands in a lot of different pots, just doing a lot of different things. But at the end of the day, it's not a very healthy or beneficial way to exist. So it's important to just make sure that you're not trying to do everything for everyone. Prioritize your needs. This is super important. You come first. I want you to recognize that if you cannot take care of yourself, you can't take care of others. So you need to make sure that if you are trying to do well for others, you need to be doing well unto yourself. And just make sure that you're prioritizing your needs, and be a little selfish. It's totally okay to be a little bit selfish, and open and honest with what you're able to take on in certain moments. Be honest with your friends and coworkers and professors. Let them know what you're going through so that you can advocate for yourself, so that you can tell folks a little bit about what you're going through. So it isn't one of those things where you're just constantly overwhelmed and you feel like you're drowning in a sea of too much commitment and overwhelming feelings. Just make sure that you're actually like putting yourself out there and being a little bit open with folks. None of this is easy. Again, like, I know that I've said a lot of things in the last half hour or so, but at the end of the day, I recognize that this is really hard stuff. It's really hard work. It's really difficult to shine that light on yourself and try to break down who you really are as a person and what your needs really are. So just recognize that I know that. And I know that there's only so much that you can do, but little by little, you should be able to take a good grasp on what you're going through in life so that you can take care of your needs. Just try to do your best. That's all I can ask. That's all that we ever can do, I suppose. And thank you for listening. Thank you for going through this presentation with me. If you are part of the MAP program, go to tinyurl.com/map wellness and fill out the MAP survey for me. And if you just like any other information, go to craig.bideman@umb.edu and I can email with you about talking really about anything. I'm here. I'm willing to help. Can do anything to help you that I can, or at least get you connected to someone who can help you. That's all I got. Thanks so much. Goodbye.